Hello and welcome to the Executive Hub, the show that helps you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs. My guest today is Aaron Bach. Let me add him to the show. Welcome, Aaron.
Hello, how you doing, Mustafa?
Fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic. It's couldn't be a better day.
Fantastic. Whereabout are you?
I'm located in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Fantastic. And what's it like out there?
It is starting to get hot and we're starting to get bugs, but also summer's right around the corner, so it's great.
Beautiful. So we're talking about how to navigate IT decisions for leaders and businesses. Let me do the proper bio for Aaron, and we're going to dive into it. Aaron is the founder and CEO of Opkalla, a Charlotte-based technology advisory firm specializing in providing agnostic, transparent, and efficient guidance to help customers make better IT decisions. At Opkalla, Aaron focuses on encouraging personal, professional, and financial goal success, which leads to an amazing culture and happy people. In addition to Aaron's role at Opkalla, he serves on the board of advisors for Officium, a managed service provider based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Equals 11, a Salesforce managed and professional services firm. Aaron, great to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Excited.
Likewise. So, tell us. Let's start with your story. What is your story?
Yeah, so I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, Southwest Virginia, for those that don't know, and I was kind of an entrepreneur, I guess, in high school. Had a polo shirt company, a lawn care company, and went to Virginia Tech as a management major. First couple weeks, you meet with your advisor, and they said, "What are you going to manage?" I said, "I don't know, business." And they said, "Well, maybe get a skill or something." And so they kind of encouraged me to pick up a major. So I ended up being a finance major, graduated in the middle of the '08 recession, so '09. And so I took a role at a big four accounting firm in what I thought was more of an accounting and finance role. It ended up being IT consulting and advisory and audit. And so that's kind of how I got to the IT industry, is by accident. A finance major turned IT, did that for 6 years, realized that my passion was really helping people and talking to people about like the decisions they're making, but I couldn't really do that at a big four firm with a lot of compliance around that. And so great experience, amazing people, had a lot of great mentors, but chose to switch into an IT based sales role, just because I saw IT was really changing the way we worked. It was easily taking over some of the tasks that we were doing. And so I switched to IT sales. And then 4 years later, my two co-founders and I decided, hey, there's these things that we saw on the market that were just opening the door for something. And all of our customers, I kept asking, hey, what if we did something like this? And they were all like, that's great. We would love that. And so that led us to Opkalla. And so that's where my professional story is now, as the CEO of Opkalla. My personal story is I have two children, lovely wife, lovely family, two dogs based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Uh, Personal fact about me: I love working out. My wife owns a gym, and then I've run 10 marathons, a half Ironman, and a Ragnar. So I'm a big worker outer in my free time, and I love to. I don't know. Some people hate it. I love to run. I love to work out, and that kind of keeps my energy high.
Love it, love it. I started going to the gym back in January, and now we go to the gym like 3 4 days a week, and I could not be happier about it. Feel great,
You,
body's in much better shape, and as a guy
you know,
who's
they
sitting
say
for
they say they say there's a like a turning point, right? Like, people, if you don't go a lot, people say it's a pain to get there, and like you go and you feel so good. I'm the opposite. I've gone so much that if I don't go, I actually feel sad.
yeah,
So when you get there, you just don't miss a day in the gym or working out because you just feel worse.
oh yeah, and I'm used to it. If I miss a day, I feel like I'm missing. The big part of me is missing, and there's some days where we're tired, and I don't feel like go to the gym, and those are the days that it feels great and much better after I've gone to the gym, and then I'm like, I'm so glad I came out because
Yeah.
all the frustration, all the toxins that are inside the body, I think they kind of get disposed, and I feel so much better.
I understand that. That's my stress reliever. So I love,
Yeah.
with a lot of stress, go to the gym or go for a run, and I come back and it's like, all is right in the world.
Do you lift weights too?
I do. Yeah. About
Okay.
3 days a week, I try to lift or do some type of strength based exercise. And then the other days, swimming, biking, running, something like that.
Fantastic. And I do hiking on weekends too, and
Nice. Where do you hike?
right here in the Rockies. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, so our backyard, like 30 minutes away, we're in the mountains. So
Oh, that's great.
sometimes I go twice a week for hikes because that's the only place there where my brain shuts down and gets disconnected from the world.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't have that experience anywhere else. But when I'm in the mountains, where like my brain is so calm and I'm not thinking about all the craziness and life. So
It's a great stress reliever.
I love it. So was there like a specific moment or an event that inspired you guys to start Opkalla?
It was, I wouldn't say it was like a moment, but there were definitely moments in time that I can remember where it was like, okay, this makes more sense. But what I would say is the industry at the moment or the time we were sort of thinking about this was changing before our eyes. CapEx was moving to OpEx, or as a service, which we're all familiar with now. Um, Back in the day, a legacy VAR, which is a value added reseller in the IT space, you used to pick a technology like a Cisco or a Dell, which are great technologies, by the way. You used to pick one and you used to get certified, and you would resell that over and over and over, and that would be sort of your practice, if you will. There's so many more solutions coming to market, though, starting in like the early, or like I guess the late 2010s, that it was getting harder and harder for VARs to keep up. And so we kept saying, what if you just have more solutions? You're more agnostic. That whole concept sort of came to be because of that model. And so between that, the industry changing, the OpEx changing, and then just this huge gap in the middle market, we just kind of were hit in the face with this idea of, hey, let's be an agnostic middle market to large to small enterprise advisory firm. We can still resell, we can still consult, but let's be more white glove. Let's really put hands on our customers' journey in IT and help them get through those decisions so that we can actually sit on the same side of the table, which is a cliche concept, but we actually get to do that today. And so, not a specific moment to answer your question, but lots of like little things that kept happening to say, like, wow, we really need to do this.
Love it. And then so your co-founders, were you guys like having beer and one day you're like, we should start a company? Did it go like that?
No, not exactly. So, one of the co-founders I worked with, and it was just more of a couple year, like, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And then one day it just was like, we have to do this. So that
Yeah.
was the one. That's Bryce. And then Jim was actually at a different company, and he was in that model that I was talking about where they were very biased for a certain technology. And I kind of asked him, I said, well, what if you wanted to be agnostic? And he danced around and really said, like, I kind of have to sell some things better than others. And I was like, well, doesn't that put your customer at a disadvantage? And he said, yeah. I said, so let's not do that. Let's start a
Hmm.
company and not do that. And he's like, okay, I'm in. And so it was gradual, and then all of a sudden it was real, and then it became very
Fantastic.
real when we decided to make the jump.
Love it. So who do you serve and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so we serve businesses of all type, all industries. Pretty much any business has IT, except we don't do a lot of work in the federal government. And then the type of customer is usually a mid-sized to small enterprise customer. I would say 200 to 500 employees, up to maybe 10,000 employees is the sweet spot, or our ICP, our ideal client profile. Um, the reason that we're not specific on an industry is we're application level down in IT. And so your infrastructure, your networking, your cybersecurity, although different industries face different challenges, the solutions and the why behind them are still fairly similar. And so we can be pretty agnostic across a wide range of industries. And so we're able to kind of replicate, maybe it's a a law firm that's X size is the same type of industries like an accounting firm of X size, similar IT structure, similar systems, similar challenges. Those relate, even though they're kind of different industries. And so we try to take those experiences and match them across industries so our customers can learn from each other. And then it gives us more to consult on to say, don't recreate the wheel. This has been done before, and let's show you how.
Love it. So, before I guess I might my next question, let me ask you: what are the problems that you guys solve, and how do you solve them?
So it depends on the customer, and so I'm not going to give the "it depends" answer because that's a not a good answer for a podcast. But there's I would say there's like 5 to 7 reasons. One, IT is being asked to do more and more every day. Every department, every part of a business is more reliant on technology than they ever were before. So a lot of companies are taking on projects in technology they've never taken on before. So there's the lack of knowledge, lack of experience. There's the budget restraints. So even though IT is being asked to do more, budgets are not increasing at the same rate as what they're being asked to do. So they're always looking for ways to offset costs and do something different. Um, Research, so providing research in different technologies, why people are moving to them, what the companies are focused on. They have lean teams. They don't have time to research. They don't have the skill sets on their teams. They don't have the experience. So we're helping sort of be that research, be that procurement, be that experience for them and connect them with the folks they need. And then maybe they're being asked to do either geographies that they've never worked in or can't get their hands on. They're working on a part of the business they've never worked in or familiar with. So there's a lot of different reasons that people find value in us, and so our job is to help them make more efficient, better technology decisions in those areas, and then allow them to kind of hack it from a research perspective, so that they don't have to spend all the time on Google or go get a Gartner subscription or something like that. They can just ask us, and we can help connect them, plus advise them on that roadmap.
Fantastic, beautiful. Um, I guess this would give us a good perspective on how you do what you do. Give us an example of a client you work with and how you help them. Like, and what was the challenge they were having?
Yeah, and I'm not going to give any specific names, but I'll give you like in Charlotte, we have a company that um, they actually when we first met them, the IT leader said, "No, I have this company that I work with. I've used them for years. We're going to use them." And I said to them, let us just give us a chance. Let me show you what we're doing differently. Give me your worst project or the project that no one's been able to solve, and let us help give you advice and get you to a solution that fixes this problem. He said, "Okay, fine." Gives us something very random. They are now one of our top customers today, and almost everything they do is with us because they said, "This, you made my life easier because I knew you weren't biased on what you were bringing me. You were bringing me multiple options. You were taking what I gave you from a scope perspective and what we needed, the problem, and you were fixing the problem rather than trying to redirect me to the solution you want to sell me." And we were helping them, basically providing almost like a part-time resource to them by being that person between the suppliers and them, from a scheduling perspective, from holding people accountable to the implementation. So they know, like, hey, these guys are involved. They're going to stick with me through that and past that implementation. And so, fast
Yeah,
forward 3 years, these people, there's been 10 reps at every single company who work with them. We're the consistent piece there. So they know they can just call us, and they love it. So we work with them every day.
beauty. What are like? Can you give us examples of services that you guys are specifically doing for this customer? So we know, I know, like I have an idea of what type of services that you do in IT because I know IT is like
Yeah,
oh,
it's
ocean.
huge. And so what I would say is kind of your operational IT, application level down. So think, your cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has been a massive push over the
Hmm.
last 5 years because of all the breaches. Infrastructure,
Yep.
networking, your collaboration, your customer experience, your AI, all of the data around that is now popular, and everyone's trying to figure out that strategy. Your cloud, your databases, your operating systems, your hardware, your mobility and your telecom, all of those things we deal with because it's all below the
Hmm.
application level, and it's sort of the piping or the utility behind your IT department.
Fantastic. And then do you guys actually implement and run the system for them, or do you just consult them on it?
No, so the only solution in-house that we implement and will actually manage is Microsoft, the licensing for them in their Azure. The rest of it, I always tell people, like if I as a service provider tell you that I implement the 600 plus partners that we work with, you should ask me where are my 10,000 employees, because that's the only possible way we would have the solution expertise to do it. We go and we find the specific implementers that are good at that technology. So if we say
Got
we
it.
sign a new technology tomorrow, we're also looking at who can implement that and who's a good fit, because that's their practice, that's their bread and butter, so that you are getting that technology plus the leading implementer rather than just some random company that says they can do it.
Fantastic. So you consult them on what needs to happen, and you have the people to say, "Hey, here's your, for example, computer desktop that you need to buy, and here's the vendor. Here are 3 vendors that you could buy from. Pick and choose."
Exactly. Yep.
Right? Interesting.
It's you know what it is?
Interesting.
It's kind of, we get the question a lot. That sounds too good to be true. And in this space, it's weird why that question is so relevant. But I always kind of relate it to when you buy a house, you use a real estate agent. They don't necessarily care which house you buy, right? They just want to make sure you buy a house you're happy with and you don't have buyer's remorse. So they'll show you 10 houses. They'll show you different sizes, different types, different areas. It's no different in IT what we do. We're helping you try to find that solution that's best for you in your budget with your requirements, so that you don't have buyer's remorse and you can move on doing what you're best at.
Okay. So you make, I'm guessing that you're making suggestions to say, this is a system that you need. Because I'm guessing some of them don't know what they need.
Yeah, each customer is different. Some customers really want us to say, like, you need this, so you need to go look at this, and some want us to be more consultative. Hey, I would advise you look at these technologies. You don't have to have them, but these are ones that we'd be looking at. One of the things, like in cybersecurity, we notice is people will come and they'll say, I need blank technologies, but in the grand scheme of cybersecurity, like, they haven't even implemented like the baseline, but they're asking for like a super advanced tool. We want to make sure that they're starting
Yeah.
with like the basics. Like, do they have these things done?
They have the foundation to do
Yeah,
it.
and so just trying to make sense of that and make sure that they're doing that correctly, and then moving on to, okay, yeah, I would move to this platform or this solution type next, because that's going to fill these holes. And then they
Yeah,
might
that
tap
makes
us
sense.
and say, okay, well, I don't have any more budget. How can I create budget to do this? And that's where we're working with them on, do you replace something? Do you repurpose something? Can you combine things, etc.?
Do you guys typically work with the IT CIO of the
Yeah,
company?
so CIO, CTO, director of IT, manager of a call center, something like that is a typical title. We are sometimes brought in, though, by the CEO or CFO or COO who may be frustrated with their IT department, or feels that their IT department doesn't communicate well with them. Or this is a common one: my IT department keeps asking me for money and I don't understand why, and I can't seem to get a good answer. They'll ask us, maybe help them put a better story around why they're buying or need things. What's the business use case behind it? And so, usually that's in a probably a little bit smaller organization, but in a mid-sized to small enterprise, it's a lot of the directors of IT and CIOs.
Fantastic. And what's your process like? Do you start with an assessment to see what they have going on, and then making suggestions? And is that what it's
Yeah,
like? Kind of.
we have a 5-step process that we try to go through on almost every one. It's not every customer goes through the exact same process, because sometimes someone comes to us with a like pressing need, but it's typically step 1, assessment, understand the problem. Number 2, analyze the problem. 3, evaluate how we're going to fix the problem. 4, we provide the insights and some of the solution categories and the solution providers. And then 5, help you move to a decision. And then, you kind of run that flywheel over and over. We're doing that in, 20 to 30 different categories of IT over and over and over. And if we do that right, you're going to get the best solution.
Love it. So assessment, analyzing, evaluation, provide feedback and insight, move to a decision, and I'm guessing the next it would be implementation
Yep,
after that.
implementation, and we're really kind of repeating our process at that point, because now we're here to stay. We're going to stay involved all the way through the renewal and make sure that things are done properly. And a lot of times, I actually was reading this on LinkedIn today. The beginning of the sales process, everyone loves each other. Salespeople take care of the customer, and it just over time wanes off, and people kind of lose focus. Sometimes they don't do what they say, and that's where we get brought in again. And hey, I'm not having a good experience. Can we escalate? Can we have a QBR? And like kind of keep them honest. And if they'll fix it, great. But if not, that's what we're starting to look at. All right, they're not doing what they said they would do. Let's kind of go back to the drawing board.
Fantastic. So the topic of today's discussion was about navigating IT decisions. What are some of the mistakes that you typically see IT leaders or company owners make when it comes to IT?
Yeah, the number one problem or the number one mistake is that the IT decision has no business use case behind it. It's, I'll give a really common example. And it's really just people moving too fast and not understanding the why. So, say that a new IT person comes in, and at their old company, they had X, Y, and Z technology. And they come into the new organization, they just go to put in X, Y, Z technology. If they don't understand why that organization does or doesn't have it, they may miss like the whole point of that technology, right? So, for example, like in IT, we talk like a lot about best of breed technologies versus like a platform play. So if like let's say the organization's been moving along with a platform for years, they probably had a strategy in the use case to say we'd rather have one platform that we use, even if it's not the best of breed, because it's easier for our team to learn it, use it, train it, etc., then go to best of breed. Well, now all of a sudden you have someone who comes in and says, we're going to just put in all these technologies. No, like they don't understand why that business made that decision. Or they, another thing we see is like they're pushing to go do something like, hey, we need this, this, and this. And they haven't really helped the business understand why do they need that. This is a very common CFO, CIO thing. So CFO's like, well, I don't understand. We're about to spend $1 million on what? What does it do? Where does it help my business? And not CIO, but maybe the IT department's like, what makes us more secure? And the CFO is like, well, I've got insurance for that. Like, why do I need? So it's just this like they don't
It has to
really
make sense.
has to make sense, and you're going to spend money, make the business case. And so we see that. We see again, I mentioned lack of experience. Technology changes so fast right now. Like, the average person stays at an organization, like, I think it's like 3 years now. They may not have had the chance in their career to implement a technology that's now happening. So they have no experience other than what they read or a friend says. So they kind of are venturing into something they've never done. That's a challenge. And so we can be an easier method for them to get there, because we can help them see, what did someone do that didn't work? What did someone do that worked well? How can they get feedback on that? And so it's really, I always tell people, get an advisor that's truly agnostic, that has your best interest, because that'll help you do things so you don't have to stumble along the way as many times as others.
Fantastic. I know AI is pretty popular now these days. Is there like a big push to get AI that doesn't make sense?
I laugh and I smile, because you literally can't go to an IT event right now without someone saying AI. And it's
Mm-hmm.
gotten to the point where, like, if you're speaking on a panel or whatever, if you say AI, you have to almost justify and say, okay, this is not an AI conversation. But because it's so prevalent right now, everyone wants AI. So to answer your
Yeah.
question, absolutely. And it makes sense. It's coming fast. I mean, some would say it's coming faster and more aggressively than when the internet came out or when cloud came out. It is. It's something that everyone needs to be aware of, and we can talk a little bit more about specific AI, but it's happening right before our eyes. And if you have something that's happening in your company that's repetitive in nature, if you're not considering an AI solution for it, someone else is, and someone else is going to be able to do it more efficiently, theoretically better than you if you're not prepared. And so, absolutely, every right now, I think the big thing is a CEO or CFO or someone in the business goes to a conference and comes back to the IT department and says, "We need AI." That's also not good because there's no strategy for it. So
Right.
it's a little bit more complicated than that, but we are having a lot of conversations about what AI, how AI, who AI, you know, the use cases, etc.
Um, so speaking of AI, what are some of the use cases that you guys suggest and implement to your clients that are making, say, a massive difference in day-to-day operations?
Yeah, and I was actually on a panel a couple weeks ago and talked about this. That to me, there's you can call it two or three different ways to look at AI. Right now, there's productized AI, which is here's the use case, and this is the product that solves it. Which those are I'd say further ahead than I want AI across my company, which is like I want to be an AI based company. That's a much harder strategy to implement. So what we're doing is we're sort of understanding where do they want to implement AI? Do they have any easy low hanging fruit like use cases that they can attack, or are they saying they want to like kind of implement AI across the company to make productivity happen? That could be one and the same. So like on the first one, I'll give an example. In the contact center, customer experience, or call center, or like user interactions with companies, there are a lot of great productized offerings there that don't require you to have your data strategy built as much as in other parts. So, hey, I want to take my contact center agents and I want to connect it to my CRM to give them information faster. Those products in AI are very, very popular and they're very well built and they're very advanced. So you can implement those and have better conversations with AI, sentiment analysis, Salesforce or HubSpot data gathering, etc. Lots of conversations there. Where it's more confusing is it's just like the conversation 6 years ago when someone said, I want to go cloud. Well, why? How? Do you have a strategy for it? That's where the AI conversation is right now. What are you trying to do with AI? Like, do you have data organized? Do you have it tagged? Do you have it secure? And so, like, what you're hearing is some are, I want to just use Chat GPT. That might be what they mean for, I want to use AI. And some are actually saying, no, I want to make more automated AI, agentic based solutions that my customers and employees can use. It's just, there's a wide range right now, just like the cloud conversation 6, 7 years ago, but it's moving fast.
Oh yeah. Do you got any examples, say your clients using AI that would reduce time or reduce headache or chaos or complexity in their process to be like they used to like I'll give you an example. I heard in national park office saving an equivalent of about 7,000 hours in some report creation on some repetitive task. Do you have like examples like where your clients are like, here's what they used to do, and now AI is like a click of a button, and boom, it's ready.
Yeah, an easy, the most basic example I can give. So, um, I just was talking to a customer the other day. They're about 4,000 employees. They said we want to try to implement AI. We were talking to them. They had nothing in place. We said, well, let's take a department, take HR. Like, what are your HR policies? Like, what's your vacation policy? Which holidays are there? How do you take leave, etc. What they basically did is say they took say 20 key HR documents and they put it in like built an AI engine that was basically connected to their like a SharePoint folder that they said these are the approved documents. Now all employees, instead of sending or asking their HR people, hey, when do we get this holiday or blank, 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 and sending documents and waiting for the answer, it's all in an AI system where they just plug in the chat, hey, when do I get holidays? That is a very basic one, but that can save hours and hours and
Oh,
hours
yeah.
by just putting it there. So like you have basic examples like that, or like you're seeing it with, like a cool use case in the call center. Say you have 1,000 agents, right? And let's say that they're all taking 400 calls a day. You used to only be able to listen to a subset, maybe 3 to 5% of those, to listen for feedback, coaching, how did they do, etc. There are AI tools now that can listen, summarize, recap, and give you the actual, hey, this needs to be coached on these calls across 100%. So if you think about what that tool or technology can do, you're replacing a subset of a number of people who are only looking at a subset for a tool that's looking at 100% and giving you better data across your calls coming in so you can give a better customer experience. That's
100%.
very impactful. I could save you lots of time, money, can give you better feedback and data. Like it could do a lot of things for your business.
Can I do a shameless plug here? Would that be?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a tool we built called TriggerVox. It handles AI. It handles incoming and outgoing calls. One of the things we built into it is AI is identifying and listing objections that are coming up. So over time, we actually, I mean, upload a list of objections that the AI can handle when it answering the calls or does the follow up. But then it also identifies new objections. So next time, if I don't have an answer for that in my knowledge base, I would have had an answer to that. And the next time, the AI knows how to respond properly, and then it just gets better and better over time.
Yep.
And what AI is doing is it's just amazing.
One of the things I've seen that's crazy is I've actually seen, you can train like kind of AI sales development reps, and I'm always
Mhm.
skeptical. I'm like, no, no way AI can do that. I have literally watched someone train it for a couple hours, let it start calling people, and I've listened to it have full conversations with pretty high ranking people in IT at large organizations and it will set the meeting, and there's
Yeah,
never been a human on the phone for the whole 2.5 minutes they talk. It's incredible.
yeah. Our tool does that. I mean, you provide a script and a knowledge base and objection handling and all that, and boom, watch it go.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is.
It is amazing, and it gets better every day.
That's the crazy thing. That's how it's improving so fast that, the 3 months ago, the same things that were relevant are barely relevant today because that's
100%.
how fast I mean, I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but like OpenAI is starting to get into the hardware game. So it'll be interesting
How
to
so?
see. They acquired a company yesterday with one of the original Apple device founders, and so the thought is OpenAI will now have a hardware platform of sorts in the coming years. Like things like that are happening every single day, and it's like, wow, AI feels like it just happened, but it's evolving so quickly.
My goodness. I know Nvidia has AI that is designing chips and is writing code for the chips, and it's just improving itself like 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, go
Yeah,
figure.
that's where you can get it. It's really cool AI. It's also a little bit scary.
Yeah,
And that's where, going back to, what we do, a lot of the conversations we're having around like, hey, like that's super cool, but are you considering, a CISO, a information security officer? They're all trying to figure out how do I protect against this inside the organization. So, they're trying to figure out how do I secure generative AI and make sure that like we're not sharing proprietary information and trade secrets so that like others can't get it.
love it. Aaron, could you give us a couple of tips on making better IT decisions?
Absolutely. I mean, I go back to the business use case, like understand why you're making the decision and what you're really looking for. And know that it's actually a priority. I see a lot of organizations, I think, with decision fatigue and lack of, they spend so much time on trying to make a decision when they could have spent more time understanding like the decision that they're trying to make and what it affects the organization. I think it's what is it? Abraham Lincoln said, like, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 5 hours sharpening the
Yep.
axe. Like, figure out like what you're trying to solve before you try to go make an IT decision. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think with where we're at in just the technology landscape, I can't really name many areas where there's not very competitive tools, maybe like two or three areas, but the most of the areas have competitive solutions that are similar. And so what I see is, like, especially in the big enterprise, they do these large RFPs, and the solutions are so similar that if you try to dig in and get every single thing right,
Hmm.
you'll spend you'll spend months, years picking the solution. And with how fast technology is moving now, you're already behind by the time you select it and implement it. So, like, what's the lesser of two evils? Like, taking all that time to get it exactly right, and it might change, or picking something that's like mostly right and then like learning along the way. It's not right or wrong. It's just different philosophies. I think I see a lot of wasted time and effort in the evaluation stage to ultimately pick something that's not a permanent decision, even though it feels like that. So, like, being comfortable with it being like 98% there versus getting it to 100. I know some people may disagree with me on that, but like, if the last 2% takes more than 6 months, like, how much money are you actually saving by getting that right
Yeah.
versus implementing and figuring it out along the way?
Yeah. I'm in the process of rereading the book Essentialism from Greg McKeown with my brother. And one of the questions that has been like saving me sanity over the past couple of weeks is this essential? And like
Yes.
70 to 80% of things are not essential.
Yep.
That
Agreed.
one question is like, is this like, or we're like, we need to get AI because there's a big buzz around it. Well, yeah, but is this really essential for you? Do you really need it? You know?
Yep. I think that's so true. And I think, like, for an IT department or a company like who's thinking about that, what decisions are like irreversible, right? And like, if your whole company is based on this platform that I use and that's what your value is, of course, changing that platform is a huge decision. How you secure it, how you take payments, all these other things that go into it, they're all reversible. Yeah, they suck a little bit to change, but they're reversible. So which ones are irreversible that you really need to get right, and which ones are reversible that you can change, whether it's a year, 3 years, like, it's not going to mess with the company. That's kind of how I look at it. Same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that one question, like I think back to your point, what do I need? Why do I need it? And I would just add, is this essential?
Yeah.
That would say I think that would save a lot of cost, time, headache, energy, resources, and just focus on what really matters.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Hmm. Aaron, give us some of the milestones that you guys have achieved along the way.
Yeah. So this is actually, I love this question. So I'm a startup founder, right? So was here from day one. The first milestone was Jim Bryce and I told our wives, we said, we're going to get this company's bank account back to where it was when we started. That was the first one. And I've told this story, so people who know me, we had the first year we had a dinner where we spent over $1,000 for six of us for dinner, just to show our wives we made it. It was over like 1.5% of our entire company's worth at that time, which was the next day a little shocking to us. But we were like, this is what we said. We're going to show them that we can make it. So that was a huge milestone. That's just kind of how, startups, founders, you just got to prove the idea works and that you can make it. I would say hiring our first employee was a really big milestone for us. It changed the way, from us just being sort of like independent salespeople to now running a company. And then, you start adding employees, you have to have policies and process and HR. I think the next milestone that we'll hit is, we're getting close to the 50 employee mark, and everyone always talks about that being sort of like a, man, that makes you feel big. We're getting close to that. But I would say along the way, hiring our first person outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, hiring our first person outside of the United States, um, getting people to, in multiple geographies where we're focusing to kind of understand the mission and the goal of Opkalla. That's been a milestone. And then, like, again, we're getting close to 50 employees. But for me, even more important than our company's milestones is I'm really big on the employee milestones. So, like, I love to see the employees hitting milestones faster and earlier than they ever thought possible. So, we really encourage them to write down, personal, professional, financial goals. My favorite thing about any milestone is when a person stands up and said, "Hey, I just paid off a loan, or I just paid off college debt, or I just bought a house
Mm-hmm.
way sooner or way earlier than I expected." Like, that's my favorite milestone of all of
Love it.
those.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just putting food on a few tables is like a godly act.
Yes, it is. And it sometimes I take that for granted, but then I, take a step back and it's like, wow, this is really cool. We've created almost 50 jobs with Officium. It's another 10, so 60 jobs in a market these didn't exist. Like, that's my why. That's what gets me up out of bed. That's what gives me the energy I have doing what I'm passionate for, and then helping people that just rely on us and that they get to feed their families and do what they love.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How long have you guys been in business? Been in business?
So we started tax day April. Oh, my chair just fell back. Tax day April 15th, 2019. So we've been in
Beautiful.
business almost
6 years?
a little over 6 years. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Aaron, what would you say have been some of the challenges that you guys have been facing along the way?
Yeah, I think the first challenge is just showing that the idea that you're talking about and you're doing and you're showing up to customers actually works. We tested it. We asked people if they thought it was a good idea, and they all said yes. But when you actually go do it, it's different. So just validating that idea was kind of the first challenge. The next challenge is like we're really trying to change the way IT purchasing and advisory works, taking the value added reseller and adding the value back, right? So we get a lot of questions about, like, well, this sounds too good to be true, black magic, how do you get paid? It's not a drastically different model, but it's just explaining that model and getting people to see it and try it and take a little bit of a leap with us versus the traditional, people they've worked with. That's a challenge. And we love that challenge and we do well with that challenge. So our challenge is helping spread that model, showing people that there is a better way to purchase and procure IT. And so, how do we expand right now? One of our big challenges is how do we expand to multiple geos where people aren't familiar with the name Opkalla and they haven't seen our model before. So making sure we empower those that are outside of the North Carolina and South Carolina area with what we do. And then I think every company challenges with, like, culture, which I think we're blessed to have a great culture, but we're half the people are based in Charlotte, half are somewhere else in the United States or the world. How do you keep that, like, tight knit, fun, passionate culture in place when
Mm-hmm.
you're on Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, you're virtual, you're hours apart? It gets harder. So you have to be more intentional, and we don't have it all right. We mess up days on certain days and weeks, but we're trying to get better and overcome the challenge of not being that startup and being more of a mid-market, fast-growing company.
Beauty. Um, is there like which is there any challenge that you guys are facing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the multiple geographies is a very real challenge. Like, you used to just make a budget and everything you did, but it was basically around HQ. But, like, we do a lot of events, trade shows. Um, we do a lot with local charities. We basically have to multiply that by every city that we have someone in now. So you multiply the budget by 4 or 5. You multiply the efforts, the time. Now it's like, well, wait a second, how many people do I need on my team to do this, or how do we do it with the team we have? That's a huge challenge. And I think the great thing about what we're doing is our culture is very much like transparent. Just say what you think and know that you're not going to get it all right. we don't get it right. We run events, we run, campaigns, we go to new markets, and we flop a little bit because we didn't think through something that was going to happen. But it's okay. We just go back and we kind of go back to the drawing board, try to fix it. So we're getting better every day, but it's still a challenge to try to do that and lead from afar versus leading like right outside my door.
Beauty, beauty. How do you go about managing all that? So, uh, uh, the people on different towns, different countries. How do you guys like different time zones and?
Yeah, I mean, EOS, I think I'm sure that people have talked about that before. The Entrepreneur Operating System, Gino Wickman. If you've never read Traction, great book. And we read that. You mentioned milestones, hiring our first employee. We all read that book to say, all right, we need to run this a little bit more like a business. So having an actual system in place to have meetings, a cadence for talking to people, when you're going to share information, how you're going to communicate, it's being very intentional and clear with that, and then being clear with who leads who reports to who. Again, I don't want to sound too corporate, but you got to know who your leader is. You got to know who you can
Yep.
go to for certain things. And so, our leaders, our ELT, our executive leadership team, they're great. They know their role. They know their people come to them for things. And so empowering them to do what we need to do is very important. And so, I got to trust those people, and I do trust those people. And because of that, I can have a meeting with them once a week. They help get the information to everyone, and those people own that. And we as a team address the challenges that come up because of it. And so, again, I mean, is it perfect? No, but it's better than most companies I've ever worked at. And we have a very open line of communication for our team. And so, we just try to make sure we're communicating constantly. I know my role is the CEO here, but I also think it's the chief repeating officer. Sometimes I just repeat
Yep.
myself over and over to make sure that we're following through with what we said we would
Yep.
do, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's part of the job. Repeating yourself. It's a great point. It's like I think um, for what I've seen, a lot of entrepreneurs get tired of repeating themselves. And I was talking to a couple of buddies and clients from time to time. I'm like, dude, that's your job. It's like these are
It is.
human beings. They forget things. They're not perfect. We're not robots. So
It's interesting. You brought up something, and it a challenge or it's a milestone. I think another big challenge slash milestone we're dealing with right now is, a founder led company. You do a lot of stuff yourself. You wear multiple
mhm.
hats. You just do it. When you transition to the size we're at, you can't do everything. It's not possible. And so there's always this, you compare it to what you can do, which is also wrong because you are the founder. This is how this is what pays your bills. This is what puts food on your table. You're I'm not going to say better, but you possibly care more about your company than anyone else. And so that's a challenge, right? Because you want everyone to care just as much as you, but that's kind of unrealistic. And so, but if you have a mission, you have a passion, you have a shared goal for everyone, you're much more likely to get the right response and get people to all row in the right direction. And so, like, having clear communication, but having a clear goal in mind and core values and, purpose, etc. Those are very important things. And I know we haven't talked about them much, but you can't overlook those as a leader. You've got to have those to be core, or else you'll fall apart real quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Knowing your core values and having it, I think, written down and communicating to the team. I mean, we got our personal core values, and then we got a company core values, which I think the company core values become a mixture of the company and the owners, and they all come together and they get, I guess, built over time. But
Yeah.
knowing what they are makes a huge difference.
Knowing what they are and making sure that they're actually
You stick to
real.
it. Yeah.
They stick to it and they're real. They're not just like something on the wall. Like
Some fancy
the
stuff.
yeah, the number of times I come back to our core values in a meeting with a customer internally, it's almost every day because if you're not doing like what's core to us, then you're not really living and breathing how we operate. And so that's important for us to come back to.
I know I'm a huge scaling up fan, and in there we talk about if you have to make a decision and you don't know what to do, just read and refer to the core values, and that should help you. And the core values should be hopefully specific and clear and simple enough that once you read it, you'll be like, yeah, I can make a decision based on that. Versus integrity, vigilance, and vigilance. Like nobody has a clue what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a
Beauty.
lot of companies fall victim to that too.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like nobody knows what they are, but they're just three words that are what I would call cute, but they don't mean anything.
Right.
Anyway, give me two of your favorite books of all time.
I mentioned Traction by Gino Wickman. I'll give two more just because I already cheated and gave one. The One Thing, I think it's Gary
Mm-hmm.
Keller. That's one of my
Yep.
favorite books. In summary, it's just basically pick the one thing that's the most important thing and go after it.
Yep.
And then another one is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's the
Yep.
biography of how Nike started. I love that book because I think a lot of books about entrepreneurs are like they were down to their last dollar, blah blah blah, and then they made it and they're billionaires and they're super smart. They're the smartest person in the room. I love that one because Phil Knight was not the smartest person. He admits that. They stumbled along the way. They didn't have it all right. But look at Nike now. And I think it was because they all were passionate
Yeah.
about making the best shoe. And I just think it's an awesome book. I already said I'm a big runner, so I think it relates to me well, but Shoe Dog's
Yep.
great.
I love it. I have it on my. I'm looking at it right now. Great book, Yang. If you haven't read that book, actually, the One Thing by Gary Keller is also another great
Yeah.
book.
Another I'll give
Beautiful.
another book that I'm reading right now that's awesome. Can't put it in my top 2 because I haven't finished it, but it's called No Man's Land. And I
Uh huh.
forget the author of it, but it's about basically companies moving from startup to mid-size. It's really good and it's very relevant to some of the challenges and milestones I've talked about here.
Beautiful. Love it. Um, what is one piece of advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Yeah, so my parents used to always say, "Don't forget where you came from, and just don't forget like kind of who you are." So the kind of going back to core values or like what's important to you, I think is you got to be passionate about what you do, and you kind of have you have to know who you are, and that has to show through because that's the only thing that I have that no one else has is that I'm Aaron Bach and I have my personality. Like that's it. And so that's a really big impact to me. Like, am I doing what's me? Am I acting like me? Do I like what I'm seeing of me? And then like the other piece is what would someone say about you if you weren't there? And if you like what they would say, then great. Then keep doing what you're doing. But if you don't think you'd like what they would say, then fix your actions speak louder than your words, and that's what people are judging you on. And so I hope when I lead the room someone says he does what he says he would do and he works really freaking hard but he's not the smartest. That's 100% what I would hope they say, because that's 100% what I try to do every day. But if someone says differently, then I need to change and get better.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. Don't forget where you come from and stick to your core values. That's great advice. Great advice. Aaron, this was a great conversation. You showed a ton of value and very interesting. Where could people reach out and find out more about you and your
Yeah,
company?
absolutely. So Opkalla.com is the company, officiumit.com is the other. Um, the best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. I'm very big on posting on LinkedIn. So reach out. It's Aaron J. Bach on LinkedIn. And if you do reach out and you put an automated message, I'll know because it'll pop up as Aaron J versus just Aaron, which is the little hack for people. But LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of time on.
Beautiful. So, gang, if you search Aaron Bach on LinkedIn, and or if you go to opkalla.com. Did I get that right,
That's correct.
Aaron?
Yep. You'll be able to link it from there.
So, so Opkalla is OPKA as in alpha,
Correct.
LLA.com.
Yep.
Gang, thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions for Aaron or me, just post them on whatever channel you're watching, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Do reach out to Aaron on LinkedIn, visit their website. And if you need help with your IT, they obviously that's what they do, and they're pretty good at it. And yeah, we'll see you on our next episode. Hope you have a great day. You've been watching another episode of the Executive Hop Show. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini, and my guest, Aaron Bach. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye now.